So I'm going to walk through this exercise from chapter 2 in section 2.2. This is the third question, which you have the answers in the back of the book. But figured some of you were having questions about it, so I figured I'd walk you through it with a video. So this is what the density of people per square kilometer in an African country or in African countries. Okay, so what I did is I used that data that first we're going to do a frequency distribution, a relative frequency distribution, a cumulative frequency distribution using 8 classes, and then later on they wanted me to do a histogram. And we'll do some of this with technology, we'll do some of this by hand. You can do it all with tech, but I figured to help you learn what's going on, it's good to do it by hand. So using that spreadsheet, I sorted the data in ascending order, and I broke it up a little bit so I could fit it on the screen. And so what I saw is I saw the minimum value was 2. I saw the maximum value was 630. So I need to find the range. In order to set up my frequency table, I have to decide on, the range. And then, so if I subtract the max minus min, I got 628. And then they told me in the problem to use 8 classes. And so I divided by 8, and that came up to be 78.5. And they said in the instructions, and it makes it a lot easier to do this, is to round up. So we had a class width of 79. So what does that do for us? Well, to set up my table now, to my frequency table, I'm going to start with my my bounds. I think they call it this in that book. Anyways, it's the upper and the lower limit for each class or each bin if you use Excel language. So the lowest number was 2, and then what we're going to do is we're going to make this be 79 wide. So anything from 79 up, it was a little tricky about this, and this is what I recommend you do. We're going to not come up with the upper part of that bound. We're going to find the next one. So I'm going to add 79, because that's the class width, to my lower limit of my first class. So that'll give me a lower limit of my next class of 81, if I'm doing that arithmetic right. And then I don't want to have the same number falling in 2 classes, the same bins. So one way to fix that is to take away 1 from this bound here. And now you might think, well, that's not 79 wide. Well, if you think about this as like a fence post problem, I'm going to count 0. So 2 to 80 is 79 numbers. Okay, that can be a little confusing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add 79 here, coming down again. So that's going to be 150, 160 if I'm doing my arithmetic right. And then I'm going to add 79 again, and that's going to be, I'm sorry, I'm going to use a calculator, folks. It's late at night and I'm tired. 160 plus 79 is 239. And let's see, then I'm going to keep rolling here. So then I'm going to add 79. So I got 318. Notice I'm just doing these lower limits first. I'm going to add again. That's 397. I'm going to add 79 again. 476. How many bins do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I need 1 more. So 555 is my lower limit for my last bin. And then I can just add 79 here also. So that's 159. And let's see, so 159 plus 79 is 239. Or 238, sorry. I was looking down at the 239. 317 and 396 and 475 and 555 or 554, sorry. And one last one, 633. Now, hopefully that contains the maximum number Let's see, the biggest was 630, so we're good. We've got everything caught in here. Now, the next part of making your table is you can either use tallies to come up with a frequency. You know, different books use different things. Sometimes it's easier to do a tally. And that, by tally, I just mean you put hash marks, right? I mean, especially when you're doing this by hand. So I see, if you didn't have the numbers all sorted, the tally really works well. So maybe I should look up at the unsorted ones. So see how I've got a 15 here? So that 15 is going to fall in this bin here, the first bin, or the first class. And then I've got, what's the next one? 8, if I want to go down. So 8, and I notice I'm liking to cross these off. 8 falls in that bin also. And then the next number is, whoops, the next number is, I got to go up higher, 26. Well, 26 falls in that same bin. And what did I say, 26? I'm looking at other numbers at 26. And you just start sorting these bins, you know, these numbers in the bins. Now, you can keep going. Now, what I wanted you to see is, because I've sorted these, it makes it a lot easier to count how many in each bin. So I want to count up how many numbers fall between 2 and 80. And since I've already got them sorted, let's see, I think I broke these up into groups of 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And so 10, 20, 30, and then 39 pieces of data fell in that first bin. So we could just jump right to a frequency. I'll abbreviate. So there's 39 pieces of data that fell in that bin. And then how many between 81 and 159? So 81 and 159. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So if I did that right, that's 8 of them in there. And then how many between 160 and 238? 0. Oh, sorry, 238, 160 and 238. So 1, 2, 3. That's it. 238, so 3. And 239 to 317. 239 to 317, I'm counting 0. And 318 to 396. 318 to 396. 1, 2, 3. How many between 397 and 475? 397 and 475 is 1. How many between 476 and 554? 476 and what was that? 554. Ooh, 563 is outside that, so 0. And then that last bin, it should be the last 2, 555 to 630. It is, so there's 2. Now, if I wanted to come up with a relative frequency distribution, I'm sorry. Yeah, let's do the relative frequency distribution. So there are 54 numbers here, I believe. No, 50, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 56 numbers. And they don't tell me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 56 numbers. So to get the relative frequency distribution, I'm going to take my 39 and divide it by 56. And then if you want, you can write it as a percentage. So 39 divided by 56, I'm getting 69.6% if you want to use percentages. So 69.6%. And then I'll do 8 divided by 56. So 8 divided by 56 is a 14.3 for round, and so on and so forth. And you can go look at those answers if you want. Now, what if I wanted to come up with a cumulative distribution? A cumulative frequency distribution. You can also do cumulative relative frequency. Cumulative, please excuse my writing. So there's 39 in this first bin. And then I'm going to add 8. So that makes it 47 that I've added up. And then I'm going to add 3 more, because that's what's in the next bin. So that makes a total of 50. And then the next one, there's none in that bin, so that's still at 50. Then I'm going to add in 53 to make it 53. Add in the 1 to make it 54. I still have 54 because there's nothing in that bin, in that class. And add the last 2, I've got 56 is what I'm supposed to have. Okay, so let's go make sure I've answered all these questions. They wanted me to do a cumulative, a relative frequency, and a frequency distribution. Now, part 7 here, question 7 here, just create a histogram and a relative frequency histogram. Well, if you're using a spreadsheet, you could just type in, you could put these numbers in in a column, use them as labels. You could put in these numbers in the next column over, and then just insert a chart, and set up, make sure it's a bar graph. Okay, and there are applets to do this. You don't have to use Google. I encourage you to explore spreadsheets. They're pretty powerful. And then we could do the same thing with the relative frequency. Just put those in. Okay, so now that I did all this work, how does this help me answer question 3 and 4 in my open math on this week's work? Well, I'm going to pause this for a minute. Actually, I'm not going to pause this for a minute, because if I do, I have a hard time joining these. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go out to my open math, and I guess you can't see anything here. My open math, and here's a couple of questions, and let me grab them. It's a little bit different. This is different numbers I'm going to show you, but then we can come back and look at what this work that I created here. Let's see here. I'm going to I'm going to save this just so I don't lose it. Yeah, I don't want to put in my screenshots. I'm going to put it on and out of my Dropbox. That's an app that you should use if you haven't been using it. I use Dropbox all the time. Let's see. So this is going to be what? This is going to be stats using tech 2, 2, 3, and 7. And I'm saving that on my desktop, right? So I'm going to do a new bin. I'm going to paste in what I just copied. Okay. So if I'm looking at this is asking me, based on the frequency distribution above, 34 is A. Well, let's see. I'm looking at 34. Okay, and the person who did this, didn't choose the right one. So let's go take a look at how this corresponds to what I did. Well, or maybe let's just talk about it. See how 34 is the upper limit of that range, or of that class, of that bin. So it's the upper, how do they word that? Upper class limit. 31 would be a lower class limit. Okay, and now this one, they're asking me find the relative frequency of, well, I didn't copy that whole thing. What does it say? Find the relative frequency of, I'll have to read it to you. It says, let's see. Find the relative frequency for the class with a lower limit of 19. Okay, so we're going to come back to this app. Here we go. This is what I want. So the lower class limit of 19 is that one right there, right? I don't know if you can see my map pointer. I probably shouldn't assume that. That's 19. So there's 3 that fell in that class. How many numbers do these add up to? I mean, one way to do that is get the cumulative frequency, but why do that distribution? Let's just add them up. Well, we are adding up the number of students, but this is kind of like the cumulative frequency, but it's just enough. That's a fancy way of saying how many students are there. So let's see, that's 11 and 20, 29, 33, and 40. So I would take 3 and divide it by 40, And looks like they're looking for a percentage. And what are they telling us to do for rounding? Round to 1 decimal place. So I'm going to do 3 divided by 40 and round to 1 decimal place. Okay, 48 isn't 1 decimal place. Okay, so if we went back to that one I made, let's see. Don't save this. If I were looking for, what did they ask me? So what's the 318 represent? I'm hoping you're saying that's the lower class limit for that class. We aren't gonna put a number lower than 318 in that class. How wide are these classes? That's another question. I mean, you already know that, but I don't have it right on this picture. How can I figure out how wide these classes are? Said I could just subtract these numbers and they should be the same each time. So 79 is what we got. What would be the relative frequency of the class with an upper class limit of 396? Well, there's 396. I've got 3 in that bin, so, or in that class, so 3 divided by 56 times 100 or whatever would they want. Okay, so I hope that helps. This video is probably getting long enough. I hope that helps you answer those 2 questions in my open math, and I hope I'm convincing you that maybe it's worth doing some of the problems out of the textbook also.